It is the Tuesday edition, the Tuesday evening edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday evening right before the storm is about to push in. I apologize for this being a few hours late. If you follow me on social media, you know that I had a little medical thing with my wife this afternoon. She's doing all right. I want to thank everyone for their very kind words on Facebook this afternoon. Much appreciated. But she's going to be all right. It just delayed my my arrival time here at work this evening. All right, I'm recording this a little after 7 o'clock, and this is what the radar looks like at this time. Now, if you're watching this a little later this evening, of course, the radar will look different than this, but the message will be the same. I'm going to talk about snowfall accumulations. I'm going to talk about why this is a complicated forecast and all of that coming up shortly. But here's a snapshot of the radar just after 7 p.m. Snow is already reaching the ground. I'm going to let this reload. Snow is already reaching the ground up right along the lakeshore in Cleveland, with steady snow back in western and southern Ohio as well, and even a little tongue of snow out into northwestern Pennsylvania. Now, across the Mahoning and Shenango valleys, for the most part, we are still snow-free, but that, of course, is about to change. All of this is pushing in from the west. And, of course, the color scheme on our radar here, blue, that's snow. Pinks, that's mixed precipitation or freezing rain, and then, of course, the yellows and greens, that's just plain old rain. I'm going to plot up here the snowfall reports called into the National Weather Service so far in this snow that's off to our west. We've got a couple of 1.5-inch reports out here along I-75, and these reports are even a couple of hours old, so you know more has accumulated since then. Half an inch or so down towards Cincinnati, that's a little more recent. And then they're seeing the mixed precipitation right along the Ohio River, where they're starting to see problems with ice accumulation. And there's going to be some power outages and some real big problems down towards the Ohio River and even a little north of there, between Cincinnati and Columbus. Ice storm warnings are out. Big deal down there. Snowfall is not the problem there. It is actually the ice accumulations. Let me plot up the temperatures here, show you what's going on there. And again, you've got rain down along the Ohio River and points south that's falling into air that's 30, 31 degrees. That's never a good thing. Closer to home, we're in the upper 20s to around 30, and I think the temperature profile of the atmosphere tonight will be one that supports snow for the rest of the evening and into the overnight as well. And then we've got some issues coming up, I think, after about 3 o'clock in the morning. That tongue of somewhat warmer air up in the atmosphere is going to come north and east, and it is probably going to have an impact on a lot of the WFMJ viewing area, and I'll talk about why here right now. Let me get my head out of the way. What I'm going to show you here is first of all, the simulated radar. This is the highest resolution computer model we have. In other words, this is a model that we only use in the short term. It only goes out to about 15 hours, but it's very high resolution. This is the latest and greatest in terms of computer modeling. And this is what the radar should look like at about 10 p.m. this evening. So 10 o'clock. Leading edge of the snow. Ignore the green on here. That's not rain. It will be snow. Leading edge of the snow pushing into Youngstown at that point to about 9:30, 10 o'clock this evening. Fast forward to midnight, and this is when we're kind of in the heart of the snowstorm across the region. This is moderate snow, all of this through here at midnight, 12 a.m. So if you're like me and you're working the evening shift and you're heading home at 11, 11:30, midnight, you're going to run into some slick roads, no doubt. Snow will be sticking, and anything that's untreated will be in pretty tough shape. Here's 1 o'clock and then 2 o'clock. Notice what's happening here. The color scheme here starting to change. Here's Youngstown. Here's Columbiana County. In Columbiana County, especially down towards East Liverpool and south of Lisbon, you're probably starting to see some sleet trying to mix in by about 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And that sleet, and if you're a little rusty on your winter weather terminology, sleet is basically snow that melts on its way down, but then it does have time to refreeze before it hits the ground. So basically, it's a little ice pellet. Snowflakes do not refreeze back into snowflakes. They refreeze into little ice pellets. So it's snow, and then it's rain for a short time upstairs in the atmosphere, and then it refreezes back to a little bit of ice pellet action. Anyway, that sleet is pushing in at 2, 3 o'clock this morning from the south. 4 o'clock this morning, this is actually getting pretty far to the north, according to this high-resolution model. And this is what has me worried in terms of snowfall accumulations. As this sleet and mixed precipitation continues pushing north, that's going to basically put an end to the snow accumulations in any one spot. So here at 4 in the morning, right along 224, we could just be, wrapping up our snowfall accumulations at that point, which basically means no one's going to get 10 inches out of this in Boardman and Poland and Canfield and Youngstown, Columbiana, Salem. 10 is pretty much, I think, off the board at this point. That said, the lower end of our range, 5 inches, I think that's pretty attainable still, because before we see this changeover, the snow is going to be coming down hot and heavy. The mixed precipitation by 5 and 6 in the morning could get as far north as Cortland and Mercer. That's about as far north as it probably will get. So that's the way it's going to go. Everyone sees snow up until about 2 or 3 in the morning, and then from south to north, sleet's going to start mixing in. And I'm also concerned, especially south of 224, down into Columbiana County, maybe parts of Lawrence County as well, not only sleet, but some freezing rain. The difference between sleet and freezing rain is that freezing rain stays liquid all the way down. It stays liquid until it hits the ground, and it hits a frozen surface and just freezes instantly. That's freezing rain. Sleet, it's rain for a little bit upstairs in the atmosphere, but it has time. The cold air is still deep enough that it'll refreeze before it hits the ground. And freezing rain's worse than sleet, because freezing rain is just liquid water turning to ice instantly as it hits the ground. All right, future radar then, we'll finish this up at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. This is when we're starting to get into the wind-down phase, right around sunrise tomorrow morning. There'll be some light precipitation. It could be a little mix of sleet and freezing drizzle and maybe some snowflakes. Nothing heavy, but still kind of miserable outside at daybreak tomorrow. I want to show you why this is going to change over to mixed precipitation. What I'm showing you here is the temperature plot about 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere, and I'm going to fast forward to 3 a.m. Anything that's in gray here is below freezing, but this is the line where you see the purplish colors showing up. Anywhere south of there, the air up at about 5,000 feet is above freezing, and that's why the snow melts. It's going through this air that's above freezing, not here at the ground, but up about 4,000 or 5,000 feet. And notice how far north that above freezing layer at 5,000 feet gets by 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, all the way up into northern Trumbull County, northern Mercer County. So, all the way up, past Cortland, past Mosquito Lake, heading up towards northern Mercer even. We could see some sleet pellets trying to mix in very late tonight into tomorrow morning. So it's that layer up at about 5,000 feet that is real concerning. Here's the snowfall prediction on this same computer model. One thing we have to keep in mind here is that this model, and all of the models that I tend to show you, graphically, they count the mixed precipitation as snow. That's why it's a little deceiving. Let me back up to 3 in the morning. This is before most of us have seen any sleet or freezing rain. And what we're looking at here is purple. Is anything above, 6 inches is purple. But a lot of this, again, is contaminated by the sleet and freezing rain down south of Route 30. But north of Route 30, we could be approaching 5 or 6 inches of snow before that mixed precipitation sets in, around Youngstown and Austintown and Canfield and Poland, and heading up towards the Niles. So before we see any mixed precipitation, I think the lower end of our range is still attainable, 5 or 6 inches. So, I think our overall forecast for tonight is going to be one that emphasizes the 5 or 6 inch end of our range more than the 9 or 10 inch end of our range, simply because the mixed precipitation is going to get a little farther north than we originally bargained for. And this is a common thing with this storm track. Even yesterday, the models were saying not much mixed precipitation, no way, it looks like mostly snow. Led us to believe that 10 was going to be pretty easily attainable. But, the last minute, the models pick up on what's actually going on in the atmosphere, and this is why 4 or 5 days out, it is almost impossible to say with a real high degree of certainty how much snow you're going to get from a storm. Because even here, a few hours before the snow begins, we're still making adjustments to the forecast because of all these little changes that can happen, these little tongues of warm air that can get involved. So, when we start talking about storms 4 and 5 days out, boy, take forecasts with a grain of salt, because even up to the last minute, these things can change. The atmosphere is fickle. It will play some tricks on us, and it's why we have jobs in meteorology. Our job is to figure this stuff out and not take computer models verbatim. The models are there as a tool, but they're never going to be right, and we have to look at a lot of them to kind of formulate our own human forecast. All right, tomorrow, wind-down phase. Maybe there's a couple of snow showers midday and afternoon that give some places a fresh inch. But again, most of the snow, the vast majority of it is tonight. Quiet weather then for the rest of the week. There's been rumors of storms heading into the weekend. I'm going to touch on that quickly. I think Saturday there could be just a touch of light snow. This is Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon. Touch of light snow, that doesn't look like a big deal to me. This next system for Sunday is the one we've been keeping a close eye on. The models have backed off considerably on the threat for snow around Youngstown with this. This is still more of an East Coast threat. Again, though, I'm still preaching that today's Tuesday, this is Sunday, much can change in 5 days. But as it looks right now, the concern level isn't super high that we get another blockbuster snowstorm at the end of the weekend. We're not going to say it's not going to happen, but the odds right now do not favor it. So we'll, of course, be keeping an eye on all of that. Thanks for watching the Tuesday Weather for Weather Geeks. Stay tuned on Facebook and Twitter all evening. I'll have updates, and, of course, I'll have a fresh forecast tonight, 21 News at 11 o'clock.